Welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. I might be becoming a bad baseball fan who can't enjoy the romantic things because of advanced statistics. 15 years from now, I want to be on the early baseball committee. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Kern.
I literally have the Fangraphs hoodie, the baseball reference t-shirt, just repping some stats, you know what I'm saying?
It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio. We're talking baseball kind of whenever. I am your host, Chris Gianta. Over there to my actual left, as you cannot see on YouTube, unfortunately, is Daniel Kern. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I am doing well today. I don't think we expected our next pod to be recapping both LCSs, unless we just had a very busy week and had to push off the pod for a while, but it's been less than a week since we last recorded, and we are now breaking down the end of both LCSs.
Yes, we are. I mean, it is surprising. It's like, oh, that's it. That's all it took.
Yep.
Especially with how competitive the Phillies-Padres series was. You did not expect it to go only 5 games, but here we are.
It was still a great 5-game series.
It was
Can't say the same for the ALCS.
Yeah, no, you couldn't.
That series kind of sucked.
So we have, of course, the rematch of the 1980 NLCS. I mean, you got some history between the teams. Obviously, the Astros. Astros have a lot of they've had a lot of a lot of pressure after the cheating scandal, but I don't think anything amounts to the amount of pressure of avenging their 1980 NLCS loss to the Phillies. It's especially, they lost the last game in extras. It's going to be it's a lot of pressure on Houston.
When was the last time a World Series matchup was also an LCS rematch? Like the Brewers had a reversal where they had an LCS matchup that was a World Series rematch with the Cardinals in 2011 and 1982.
Right.
But
I mean, yeah, the Astros-Braves was LDS, but not LCS.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Astros-Nats never really happened.
No, definitely never happened. Neither of them were good from, I guess the Astros were good from 2005, but neither of them were good from 2006 to 2012.
Yeah, no. And, I don't think that's happened. So, yeah, now we have it. It's a fun little thing to fun little narrative, and I'm sure that that footage is going to be played like every game, and we're gonna get it. We're gonna understand it. Mike Schmidt, what did he do in that series?
I'm sure he did. It was 1980, right?
Mike Schmidt did not do well.
Really?
He had 208 with a 490 OPS.
Oh, you know who else had a 490 OPS?
Aaron Judge in the playoffs, right?
In the whole playoffs.
No.
Yeah.
Where do we start here talking about
what was the 1980 Phillies logo? What is that? Go to Baseball Reference if you're listening to this and look up 1980 Philadelphia Phillies, and they have the weirdest logo I've ever seen.
It's pretty funny.
It's not quite 1929 Detroit Tigers, but it's something, that's for sure. Steve Carlton had 10 and a
It looks like a little play on the old Quaker logo.
It kind of does.
Or on the old Quaker name.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I really wish so Chris, we joked before the show how it's the Quakers versus the Colt 45s. I really wish the Phillies were a rebrand from the Quick Steps. That would have been way more fun.
Right, yeah. Quick Steps and Colt 45s. Some alliteration there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even though they start with different letters.
Yeah. So this is gonna be fun. We'll get into a preview later on. But I mean it's two kind of opposite teams. First of all with seeding, the Astros were the 1 seed, had the best record in the American League. The Phillies were the 6th seed, and really had to fight to get here, played an extra series to get here, but there they are in the same place. So do we want to get into Padres-Phillies first?
And time to get into some series previews that we definitely haven't talked about yet. Definitely didn't record on Monday.
I thought it was the recaps we had to do.
Oh, right, yeah. Recaps, my bad. Definitely not the recaps that.
No. This is a fresh recording. We are doing this for the very first time. The audio is 1 for 1 picking up, not 1 for 2.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely like the space in my computer. There's definitely enough. There's definitely enough the first time that we're recording this, and yeah, just a little oopsie on the production side of things, and have to re-record on Thursday. We originally recorded everything on Monday, and I think we recorded pretty well, but unfortunately, no one will ever be able to know.
Nope.
It's just for us and our memories. But yeah, the LCS has happened. They were pretty quick. Kind of disappointingly quick. What did you think?
It was disappointingly quick, but also, like, for me, in my fandom, was kind of, I mean, I don't want to say perfect. I would have liked to see a little more Padres wins, but like the series that ended in 5, the NLCS was still very competitive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the ALCS, not competitive at all whatsoever.
Right. Even with the scores, like it was much less competitive than the scores gave off sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, the Astros won Game 1. They won it 4-2. The Phillies won Game 3, 4-2. But they felt like two completely different games.
Yep.
Like, like part of it also with the Astros is like you really expect them to win. So when they got up and their bullpen was doing well, that was expected. Whereas if the Phillies got up and their bullpen was doing well, that is definitely not what we expected.
Yeah, no, not at all.
We definitely didn't expect just Alvarado and Sir Anthony Dominguez and even like Connor Brogdon to just shut it down. We expected some sort of catastrophe, and most of the time it just didn't happen.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, the first series to get into here is Padres-Phillies, where, as we mentioned, Phillies finished in 5. Kind of as we expected, like home field advantage played a big part, and definitely happened in Philly.
Yep.
Like, it was
home field advantage in Philly is the real deal.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's definitely my big. I mean, it was pretty clear in the Braves series, but like it's hard to make that conclusion after 2 games just because it's 2 games. But man, that's real. It's interesting because we obviously haven't seen it in 10 years.
Right.
But that Philly crowd gets up.
Yeah, like Daniel and I weren't nearly as big of baseball fans when like the last time they were in the playoffs, and also like when a team goes to the playoffs a couple years in a row, I think that environment gets kind of more used to gets a little more used to the playoffs. Like I felt that you kind of felt that at Fenway, like in 2018. I think Red Sox had been to the playoffs a couple times in a row, and the atmosphere just wasn't quite there. Whereas like this is the first time the Phillies have been in the playoffs in 11 years, and it's Philadelphia is a very sports-centric city as well, so it's going to bring that noise, and it doesn't even matter what time of day it is, what the weather is. Like, we saw it in the middle of the day against the Braves. We saw it just in the middle of the day on a Sunday in just the rain against the Padres, and obviously at night on Friday and Saturday against the Padres. Yeah, and I imagine it'll stay a consistent factor, as we move along, the series, the NLCS started in San Diego. Not too much to take away from the game other than that giant home run by Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah, we were recording during that game too, so it also doesn't help for this program.
Yeah.
Particularly. Yeah, I mean, game 2 was definitely very back and forth. Padres were out big early. Phillies came back. You had some notes, I believe, on that game.
Yeah, and the only bit of notes that I could find post game regarding game 1 was Zach Wheeler. I think there were some. He had a little bit of luck on his side in game 1. He did still have a dominant performance with 8 strikeouts and 1 walk and 7 shutout innings, but he also allowed 3 barrels that were all outs and also 4 batted balls in the sweet spot at 98 plus miles per hour that were also all outs. And one thing from game 1 is Wheeler was taken out after 83 pitches, and it worked out. Do we want to get into that decision and how it actually ended up working out and no one's talking about it now?
Yeah, that is definitely, like, there is such a double standard in the baseball world with people, with, like, you know, guys getting taken out early and whatever happens after that. Because, you know, the prime example was Blake Snell getting taken out of the World Series in 2020 with, to be fair, that was a bit of an extreme example because he was at, like, 60-something pitches in the 6th. So, yeah, like that one, sure. And, you know, obviously everybody talked about it and everyone was like, took him out too early, blah, blah, blah. And no one would have been talking about that if Nick Anderson had stranded a runner on first with 1 out.
Yeah, and what was perfect, like when we talked about it on this particular podcast, like we actually pointed out examples from previously in the postseason where literally it was Snell who was taken out, you know, mid-60s in pitches and had like 5 shutout innings under his belt, and it worked out perfectly, and the Rays didn't have a problem, and they won, and no one talked about it at all. But you know, it's more of a spotlight when that type of decision fails.
Yeah, and I mean, it worked out for the Phillies, and you didn't hear a single word about, hey, great job by Rob Thompson to take him out there.
Right. Yeah. No. Not at all. Not one bit. But yeah, it worked out. Padres, you can't really say they threatened when they just had a guy on first in the 9th inning. It just they had that one error where it just looked like it was all gonna fall apart.
Yeah, it's so funny because I mean the Phillies bullpen, to their credit, has been fantastic, but the defense has still been kind of questionable.
Very shaky.
You know what's very funny? Mike Petriello just pointed this out on Twitter, but the Phillies ranked third fewest in errors throughout the season this year, and also Nick Castellanos did not have a single error this year.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, you know, he did play a lot of DH, but also it's still kind of wild to think about because he was out in the outfield pretty consistently as well. Let me just check real quick. How many games in the outfield did he play? 123.
Yeah. I mean...
And 0 errors.
Yeah. Well, like, when you...
He only DH for 12 games.
When you're slow to the ball and you just don't get to it's a hit.
If anything, that kind of just proves how dumb errors are.
Yeah.
And I think people have pretty much understood that for a while.
Right.
Like, what was Nick Castellanos, like, OAA this year?
Negative double digits, I would imagine.
I would imagine bottom 10 percentile, like a bright blue. Like, I'm colorblind, but I could still see that that's very much a blue circle.
Yeah.
That's what I'm guessing. Yeah, 3rd percentile. That's what I thought.
Right. Yeah, I mean...
that shows you everything you need. And not only that, but, like, 6th percentile outfielder jump, 57th percentile sprint speed, which, if anything, that makes it worse for him. Because it's like, hey, this guy's fast, but he still can't get to the ball.
Right. And we've talked about it. We talked about it on like our stats episode, episode 169 shout out. But
it's an evergreen episode.
Evergreen episode, no doubt. Where like I think I used an example of like if you have Adam Dunn in center field and Byron Buxton in center field, Adam Dunn is not going to get to certain balls that Byron Buxton will. But they could still have the same exact fielding percentage. Adam Dunn could still have a better fielding percentage than Byron Buxton, but Byron Buxton made way more plays in center field than Adam Dunn did. So, that's why you can't really look at fielding percentage. You have to look at, the amount of plays these guys are making, and then, StatCast adds a whole new element because they have like expected catch percentage versus actual catch percentage.
Mm-hmm. That's been on display a lot during the postseason, is catch percentages.
Yeah.
I've seen that in this postseason more than really ever before.
Right. And it would be funny if it was flipped on its head and used for Nick Castellanos. Because, there have been some ones where, like, there's just that signature, and this is how I would look in the outfield personally, but that signature, like, where he reaches and he's like kind of bent over and just can't quite get to it.
Yep.
But he's not gonna die. He's not someone that's gonna die.
But hey, that's not an error though, right? That's a tough play.
That's a tough play.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not an error. And you literally have to touch the ball to get an error.
It's so stupid, dude.
Yeah.
It's the worst. It's the definition of eye test for sure.
Right.
It just doesn't work like that at all.
Errors have their place, but it's not the best. Fielding percentage obviously is not the best way to evaluate defense. But that's another conversation for another day, but a fun thing to talk about, no doubt. Game 2, I do have some notes on Game 2 of the NLCS. Teams combined for a 386 BABIP. Part of that had to do with, some baseballs just falling in. Some of that had to do with some hard line drives. Aaron Nola, in particular, did allow some line drives. He had 15 batted balls. 6 of them were line drives in Game 2 of the NLCS. That's 40%. 40% of his batted balls were line drives. Average is about 25%. So he gave them up at a higher rate. The Padres did a very good job offensively in Game 2 with 12 hard-hit balls, and their bullpen was also great with 4 innings, 1 run allowed, 7 strikeouts, and no walks. Obviously in retrospect, this game doesn't mean a whole lot other than it just extended the series. But, I think this was kind of a good test of how resilient the Padres were. They could have easily just kind of gone through the motions the rest of the game, but they really came back against a guy who was previously doing very well in the playoffs in Aaron Nola.
Yeah, it felt like, and for Nola, it was a lot of that BABIPery that we always talk about with him. He's always had some tough luck on the mound. And you know what? He had kind of avoided it in the first couple of rounds, but that Game 2, it kind of got to him. And I do really wonder what the Astros are going to do against him in Game 1 tomorrow. I think we all kind of assumed they were going to go Wheeler, Nola, but they did not. They went Nola, Wheeler.
Yeah, very interesting.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess it is normal rest, but if you could pitch Nola in Game 1, it's how big is the drop off from Wheeler to Nola? It's not that outrageous.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all.
I don't think the Phillies' chances are any better or worse tomorrow or in Game 2.
Right.
Or just in the series in general.
It's not an egregious decision. There was no clear, obvious choice. Even if there was a favorable choice, it still wasn't completely obvious.
Yeah. It's almost like, the Mets with Sergio DeGrom. It's like, well, it doesn't really matter. It's game. To be fair, it didn't work like that this postseason. But in general, right, on paper, if you have Sergio and DeGrom in the top of your rotation, it really doesn't matter which one you throw Game 1. And I think the same logic applies to Wheeler and Nola. They're both fantastic pitchers.
Right, exactly. It's not like they're throwing Ranger Suarez out there necessarily. Interestingly enough, also Zach Wheeler, 3.64 ERA on 4 days rest, 2.57 ERA on 5 days rest, and 1.67 ERA on 6+ days rest.
Mm-hmm.
So, pretty incremental improvement. However, it's funny because his OPS against is higher on 5 days rest than 4 days rest, so it must be...
It's probably not that large of a sample.
Yeah,
is it?
Right. Well, it's 10 starts versus 11 starts, so kind of merely coincidental how that happened, but who knows? Maybe Rob Thompson was looking at the ERA numbers there. But yeah, so Game 2 happens. Padres proved to be resilient. They were competitive throughout the series. It was a very close 5-game series. Game 3 goes to Philly. Ranger Suarez has a much better day than he did against the Braves. Even though against the Braves he only allowed 1 run, but it was very shaky. He found himself in a lot of bad situations.
Yeah.
But yeah, in this one he was much better. He only allowed 1 line drive, which is 6.3% of his batted balls. He also didn't walk anybody, and that's because he threw the ball in the zone a lot more. I know that sometimes that's kind of self-explanatory, but 50% of his pitches were in the strike zone in Game 3 of the NLCS.
Usually the average is 45% or 45%, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or upper 40s. So 50% were in the strike zone against the Padres. Against the Braves, where he had 5 walks, he was throwing the ball in the strike zone 40.7% of the time. So a dramatic improvement, and it resulted in a better start that got him further in the game also.
Yeah, Philly's bullpen, by the way, 4 innings pitched, 5 hits, but whatever. But if we're talking FIP numbers, no home runs, no walks and 5 strikeouts.
Yeah,
Like they did everything they could to win that game.
and Seranthony Dominguez was a big part of that.
Oh my goodness, yeah, 2 innings pitched, 1 hit, no runs, no walks, 3 strikeouts.
Yeah, he was unbelievable, and that ended a great 5-game stretch for him. And a great stat for Dominguez is in the first 5 games of the postseason, he threw 6 2/3 innings pitched. He allowed 2 hits, no runs, no walks, and struck out 13 batters. It's the only 5-game span by a reliever in postseason history with 13 plus strikeouts and no walks.
Mm-hmm.
Dominguez was, out of control. Well, in a good way, out of control for the Phillies. And then on the flip side, Padres pitching wise, Joe Musgrove, he did not look like he did in his previous 2 playoff starts.
Yeah, no, Joe Musgrove. It kind of felt like that was the easiest mismatch on the Padres side, but Musgrove just didn't have it.
Right.
He gave up a leadoff home run to Kyle Schwarber, and his final line was 5 2/3 innings pitched, 8 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, and of course a homer. I don't know. They kind of just got to him, unlike the Mets and Dodgers did.
Yeah, and you mentioned that seemed to be the biggest mismatch on the Padres side, and yeah, when I was thinking, I picked Padres in 7, and yeah, I figured definitely Padres were, if that was going to be true, Padres were going to win Game 3, and then I figured the Phillies would be up 3-2 heading back to San Diego, and then the Padres would win Game 6 and 7. And part of the reason why I had Padres in 7 was because I figured, Joe Musgrove against Ranger Suarez, Joe Musgrove's probably going to win Game 7. But, he didn't win Game 3, and he allowed a lot of hard hit balls. He allowed 6 batted balls of above 100 miles per hour in exit velocity, and then all 6 of those batted balls ended up being hits because all 6 of them had a launch angle between 4 and 22 degrees, which was, that's between a very high ground ball, sharp ground ball that probably barely skips the infield dirt.
Yep.
And 22 degrees on 100 miles per hour, that could be a home run. And I think, a couple of them were. Also, Musgrove allowed 8 hits in this game, as you mentioned. He allowed 7 combined in his previous 2 starts.
Wow.
And he also allowed 6 line drives in this Game 3 start. He allowed 5 combined in his previous 2 starts. So in his start against the Phillies, he had a 35.3% line drive rate against. In his previous 2 playoff starts, he had a 15.2% line drive rate against. So, I think a lot of it has to do with the Phillies offense and how they were rolling because
my tweet is so perfect.
Yeah, it's aged like fine wine.
It really has. Yeah, it's and the second half of that tweet that's more negative towards the Phillies still true.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone. I saw a great tweet that I sent to you where it was like the Houston Astros are this this baseball death machine that just stops for no one, and the Phillies are the equivalent, or the baseball equivalent of the that sign can't stop me because I can't read.
Yeah, it's perfect. And yeah, the tweet Daniel is referencing is where you said the premise was that they can be a real threat in the World Series, but also they have to make the playoffs and not end in a catastrophe like they have before.
And it's no guarantee they make the playoffs.
Yeah, and it took
this one too. Yeah, they what was their record in September?
Well, I know in their final 20 games they finished 7-23 or 7-13.
Yeah, and there were teams they should have beaten too.
Yeah, it kind of took the Brewers blowing it for them to make it in the playoffs.
If the Marlins didn't score off Devin Williams in the 9th in that one game, none of this is happening.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, the Braves are probably still in this in some form or fashion.
Yeah, we would have gotten Brewers Braves, or I guess we would have gotten Cardinals Brewers. Which who knows what happens there. I think the Brewers are probably out homering the Cardinals, and maybe out pitching them as well.
Yeah.
So let's just say the Brewers win against the Cardinals. They might not. They probably don't.
Yeah.
But Then they face the Braves. Like, come on.
Yeah, and this is why.
Like, who in that offense is getting hot?
This is
Rowdy Tellez, sure, but I don't think there's enough guys around him.
Yeah,
like
this
Yelich isn't Yelich. Willie Adames is decent. Colton Wong is decent.
Yeah,
but it's that offense is just not.
At the end of the season, I was actively rooting against the Brewers and for the Phillies, and this is why. Because, like, the Phillies pose so much more of a threat, even if sometimes they're not the better team.
By the way, big news with the Brewers today. David Stern stepping down as president of baseball ops.
Yeah.
Interesting, because he's a very sought-after guy in the executive world.
Yeah.
And I think he's still in the organization just with a lesser role, which is weird. Which it kind of leads me to believe, like, he's probably looking elsewhere.
Right.
I don't know. Like, he's a very smart individual. You know, he's built really good teams on low budgets before. Like, why is someone else taking the reign?
Yeah.
When he's still in the organization.
Maybe it's like a simple like thing that you never see in sports, but see in like office life all the time. Is like, I just wants less hours. Maybe he wants a little more time with the kids.
He's got burnout.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Understandable.
Hey, you know, I want less hours. I barely work.
Yeah.
Barely do anything. So yeah, the Phillies they went up 2-1. Then there's game 4. Game 4 was tons of fun.
It was. Yeah, wow. I was watching Halloween Ends while watching that game. I was multitasking. That game was way cooler.
Oh yeah.
That movie was awful.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Game 4, I mean, the first fun thing you can point out is the starting pitchers combining to get 2 outs.
Yep.
And I mean, Falter happened to get the first.
He faltered.
He fault. Yep, that's what he did.
Oh my goodness.
Got him. Yeah, Falter. He got the first 2 outs of the inning, or got the first 2 guys out of the inning, and then it was just, if I want to go back to the full sequence of events, you could do that. But I mean, it was a lot went on in the game. Some notes from the game is, the Phillies ended up getting 7 barrels in the game, and
4 home runs.
Yeah, home runs from Schwarber twice, and
it was definitely Hoskins twice.
Or no,
it was Hoskins twice, Schwarber, Real Muto.
Yeah,
and Harper also went. Harper also went 2 for 4.
Doubles.
Yeah, 2 doubles, 2 big doubles.
Yeah,
he probably had the highest WPA in this game. Yeah, he didn't. He was second.
Yeah. So yeah,
understandably to Hoskins.
Falter gets Profar and Soto out on a pop fly and a ground out. Mm-hmm. Then Manny Machado homers. Josh Bell singles on a line drive. Jake Cronenworth walks. Then he gives up a double to Brandon Drury, and then he's out of there. And then Ha-Sung Kim. That Drury double drove in 2. Ha-Sung Kim gets an RBI single off Connor Brogdon and makes it 4-0. But then Mike Clevenger, starting for the Padres, he immediately allows a single and then a home run to Rhys Hoskins to make it 4-2. Then he walks JT Realmuto and allows a double to Bryce Harper, and Nick Martinez comes in. And then it was kind of like Connor Brogdon and Nick Martinez just delayed the chaos a little bit. Mm-hmm. Brogdon went 2 1/3 innings without allowing any runs that were charged to him. And Nick Martinez went 3 perfect innings.
Unsurprisingly, Nick Martinez was unbelievable this series.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
6 shutout innings with, I think, 1 base runner allowed on a single.
Right, and he came up clutch, too. Like, bottom of the first, Harper was on second. He got a ground out. Harper moved to third, man on third, 1 out.
Strikeout of Bohm and Vierling.
Stott. Yeah, 2 strikeouts in a row. And,
Bohm and Stott. Okay, yeah.
And then, he pitched a perfect second and third. And then Bob Melvin figured he was a little bored. And he wanted to see some more action, so he put Sean Manaea into the game, who's been, Sean Manaea, seems like a good guy, but I mean,
It is a really tough look for AJ Preller that the two pitchers that really blew this game away were Clevenger and Minaya.
yeah,
Meanwhile, I mean, I guess everyone else was also a Preller guy, but
two guys that
that's
were
tough.
supposed to be like a real impact trades, and
everyone, I'm assuming everyone on the 25-man roster for the Padres is a Preller guy. Has to be, right?
yeah. Well, when
Like
was
they're
he
like
hired?
he was there in 2015.
Right. Yeah. Since the start of August, heading into
August 2014.
so Sean Manaea from the start of August to the end of the regular season had a 6.56 ERA.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was allowing a lot of hard contact, and that continued into Game 4, where, yeah, Manaea, he came in, he immediately gave up a scorcher of a double to Nick Castellanos. He struck out Alec Boehm, and then Bryson Stott hit a line drive single to drive in Castellanos. That tied the game up at 4.
Huh.
And then Manaea was out there for a second inning. Well, actually, that was after Juan Soto hit a
missile
of a home run off of Brad Hand.
Bad hand.
Yeah, the managers got a little bored, and they decided to bring in some guys that were going to give up some runs.
Yeah.
So it was 6-4 Padres, and then
It's like, hey, you love that first inning. Let's run it back.
yeah, this is for the fans. Sean Manaea walks Kyle Schwarber, allows a home run to Rhys Hoskins, walks JT Realmuto, allows a double to Bryce Harper, which scores Realmuto to make it 7-6, and then Luis Garcia comes in. He allows an RBI single to Nick Castellanos, and then it was 8-6, and then the Phillies had 2 more home runs off the bats of Schwarber and Realmuto, which made it 10-6. And the Phillies bullpen was very good. Outside of Brad Hand, they were very good. Without Brad Hand, they threw 7 1/3 scoreless innings with 8 strikeouts and no walks. And even with Brad Hand, only 2 runs in 8 1/3 innings. Very solid. And the Phillies, as an offense, had 7 barrels. That's tied for the most in a playoff game in the StatCast era.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I think the Phillies bullpen just continued to surprise us. So, it's a great time for them to heat up. Absolutely.
They've been saving, like, for 4 years. They've been saving all their success for right now.
Yeah, yeah. They've just been storing it for the right time.
Yeah.
Coming out
That's just how it is.
ready to fire, and then
And they've fired.
So, Game 4, very memorable game, and then it's Game 5, another very memorable game. Great moments. I mean, just a good, like a great it was great that the Padres were able to take the lead so that the Phillies could
retake it.
retake it.
Yeah.
Like that was
beautiful setup there.
Yes.
Love that Melvin ran that play for sure. Great baseball.
Very
great optics right there.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
In front of the home crowd too. It was
Mhm.
amazing.
I mean, that wouldn't have happened if it was at Petco.
Yeah, no. At least that environment would not be the same.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have the crowd would not have been as loud.
Not as loud, at least.
Yeah, Zach Wheeler in that game, he pitched great. 6 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, no walks, 8 strikeouts. And yeah, I mean, the Phillies offense was made up off of 2 home runs, first by Hoskins off a 3-0 slider from Yu Darvish.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Rhys Hoskins had 4 hits.
4 homers.
4 hits, 4 homers.
Sub 200 batting average, but like an 800 slugging.
It was amazing. And Bryce Harper with the 2-run home run.
Yeah. The swing of his life, as Joe Davis called it, which is...
Yeah.
I really love that Joe Davis is becoming like the new voice of baseball.
Yeah.
Like, I think people are going to get behind it very quickly.
Right. Like, it's good because he has like the classic broadcaster take that you want in those big game moments, but he also he's not doing offhand commentary about like how players need to bunt more.
Yes.
Like it's a great balance that Joe Davis has.
Yeah, he's smart and he knows the right moments to make the right calls.
Right.
No doubt.
And he's doing baseball commentary all year with the Dodgers, so it's not like, Joe Buck, especially in his later years, has always been pretty good, but it always felt kind of weird when it's like game one of like the ALCS or NLCS was like his second baseball broadcast of the year.
Yep.
Because he would call the All-Star game, and then it was playoff time. And he's a professional, so he's gonna do the job. But it still kind of felt weird from an audience perspective.
It really did. Like I've seen a lot of I miss Joe Buck tweets.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. Like Joe Buck was always the guy that it's like, oh, it's a big game. That guy's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe Davis obviously is a 162 guy. Joe Buck. Not that he doesn't pay attention. Like I'm sure he gets all the storylines during the season and whatnot. He has to.
He's a sports fan.
Yeah. Yep. Bailey Falter, by the way, one of the funniest things. He has. So in 84 innings pitched, he had 17 walks and 16 home runs allowed.
Okay, yeah. Well,
that's 1.8 walks per 9, 1.7 home runs per 9.
Yeah, that's
quite the xFit man if I've ever seen one myself.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Phillies, by the way, have just in general very good strikeout to walk numbers. Like Aaron Nola was at 8.1 this year, which is hilarious. Zach Wheeler was at 4.79. Bailey Falter was at 4.35. Zach Eflin 4.33. Sir Anthony Dominguez, I guess 2.77 isn't the best, but it's not bad. Jose Alvarado, even with 4.2 walks per 9, was at 3.38. Andrew Bellotti, even with 4.1 walks per 9, was at 3.12. Connor Brogdon was at 4.45.
Yeah. They've always I think it's a matter of just not giving up home runs sometimes.
Yeah, which they don't always succeed at that, but
right.
No one does.
So yeah, the Phillies, they've had a lot of great performers in this series. Bryce Harper hit 400 with a 1250 OPS. He scored 4 runs. He had 5 RBI. And Bryce Harper, Phillies have obviously played in 3 playoff series now, and Harper's had an OPS over 1,000 in each playoff series.
Which is nuts.
It's crazy to think about, especially considering small sample size. Zach Wheeler. Harper also, he won NLCS MVP, but Zach Wheeler was a strong competitor for that title. He threw 13 innings. He only allowed 4 hits in those 13 innings. Also 2 runs, only 1 walk, and 16 strikeouts. So a 16 strikeout to walk ratio right there. Rhys Hoskins, as we mentioned, he hit 222, but he slugged 889, which is, 889 is 222 times 4. Well, technically it's 888, but you got to round up. And Hoskins had an 1189 OPS. He scored 4 runs and he drove 7 runs in. Kyle Schwarber was amazing. He hit 400 with a 1571 OPS. He scored 6 runs and he drove in 4 out of the leadoff spot. I mean, it's just great when the guys you need to do well do well.
I mean, Harper is under so much pressure in Philly every single day, with that contract, and he is doing it. He's very much doing the $330 million playoff performance right here.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, he's now been, this is his 4th year here now. So, I mean, I can't imagine the pressure if the Phillies hadn't made the playoffs again. But, yeah, he's absolutely doing it. And he's doing what, unfortunately, because of his teams, doing what he wasn't able to do in DC. Not that it was his fault. He had some good performances with the Nationals in the postseason, but yeah, he's finally going on that run, and I mean, it's been unbelievable to watch. And yeah, Schwarber, I mean, a 1571 OPS in that series is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I believe that's the 4th highest anyone's ever had in any postseason series.
Yeah, probably.
Behind 2002 World Series Barry Bonds and 2 others.
Yeah, I know.
1989 ALCS Ricky Henderson was one of them because that dude went God mode.
Oh my God, yeah. If you want to go to Ricky Henderson's 1989 playoff game logs, it's unbelievable. In 9 playoff games, he reached base safely twice in
Yeah.
every game.
After we stop recording, I need to show you something related to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know Paul Molitor in the 1993 World Series also had a 1571 OPS. So that's me and my brain working things
Yes.
over.
And by the way, Chris still has our prep sheet for this episode pulled up right now, and he has not moved from that.
Yeah, no,
He doesn't
not
have a phone out or anything.
nope. Just a big Paul Molitor guy over here.
Poly playoffs.
Pauly playoffs. Anything you want to talk about with Padres-Phillies before we get into the next series?
Yeah, I mean it was just an awesome series for baseball in general.
Yeah.
As for the Padres, even without Tatis, I really feel like we might look at this as their best chance. And I was thinking about this. Actually, I thought about this after we recorded last time, so part of me is a little glad we got to do this again so I can include this. But let's say this does end up being the best chance the Padres ever get. That's going to really put a huge stain on Fernando Tatis Jr.'s legacy.
True,
Like
yeah.
the best chance they had, and he wasn't there because he was treating ringworm
Yeah, right.
and got caught for PEDs.
Yeah, and was probably caught for PEDs, trying to ease pain that he had from another injury that was, not really accepted in the contract.
Yeah.
When he plays, but it definitely will, especially for really against PED people, no doubt about it. It could be the best chance the Padres have.
I think it probably will be.
Yeah,
Maybe that's a hot take, but
they do have some young talent, but in terms of guys that are 25 and under, it's really just Soto and Tatis.
yeah, they're on their own kind of.
Yeah,
they're in their own league.
I think Machado's either 29 or 30. Darvish is
36.
Darvish is 36. So that's your best pitcher right there. Even Snell is 29, and I think he's a free agent maybe after 2023. And then Joe Musgrove is also 29. Luckily, they were able to lock him up. But, after a slew of trades that have not gone their way with Minaya, Clevenger, among others, it hasn't set them up for good things later on. Even this year, only able to get 89 wins, given, they had a great playoff run. But yeah, you do have to think about the future of this team.
You do. The Dodgers are always going to be there. The Giants could always pose a threat. The Diamondbacks are up and coming. And there's the Rockies, whatever. But you do really have to wonder how often are the Padres going to get this close again in this era?
Yeah.
And are we going to look at this in the future or being like, wow, Tatis couldn't be there during the best chance his team had as, the face of his franchise, the face of the future of the franchise, and everything that team was liked about. He couldn't be there because of this.
Yeah, right. And also with the Padres, the narrative for them for half a decade was oh, they got one of the best farm systems. Wait until a few years from now. They're going to be top notch. They're going to be competing for the division. Now,
they're going to have Cal Quantrill. They're going to have Ty France.
Yeah, they're going to have Francisco Mejia. They're going to. Some of them worked out. Obviously, Fernando Tatis Jr.
A lot of them worked out for other teams.
Yeah, and a guy like Mackenzie Gore has gone from a top 3 prospect to a guy who's it's Mackenzie Gore.
Yeah, I mean he pitched decently for a stretch of this year, but then he got hurt, I think.
Right, and the point I'm trying to make,
I had a really nice stat at him in June, July.
The point I'm trying to make is the Padres were a team with a top 5 farm system for 5 years, and now according to MLB.com in the mid-season rankings, their farm system was bottom 3.
Yeah.
Traded a lot of guys away, and
they lost a hell of a lot of those trades.
They lost a lot of those trades, and
we previously mentioned Clevenger and Minaya. Not that Minaya was really a huge one, but Clevenger was a big one. Also in that series, Austin Nola went 1 for 18. And he also bunted. They bunted to set up Austin Nola.
That was
with 2
so
outs.
stupid.
That was the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
Part of me thinks maybe Trent Grisham did that himself because he was 0 for 18 and he just had zero confidence in himself.
Mm-hmm.
So he was just like, maybe Austin will get it done. But it was not a good move.
Yeah,
not at all.
It sucked. Yeah. I guess Grisham was 0 for 18, but also I looked and I was like looking at the splits and I was wondering because Will Myers had already pinch hit before.
Yeah, they only had
in
2
that
backup
game.
catchers remaining.
So like a pinch hit situation couldn't have worked.
Even then,
But-
just bunting to put a second out on the board with your season on the line is so dumb, no matter who it's bringing up.
Yeah, and then I looked at splits and Grisham actually had a better OPS against lefties.
Yeah,
Not considerable, but like
because Ranger
Slight-
Suarez came in. Yeah,
slightly better. Yeah, Ranger Suarez was in. I should add that. But yeah, that was stupid. But yeah, going back to the Padres, like yeah, they at one point were setting up a future. Now they're bottom 3 in the farm system. They have a pretty jacked up payroll that I don't know if they can really add much to.
Next year is probably the last year of their window because Snell's gone, Darvish is gone. The only person solidified in the 2024 rotation is probably Musgrove.
Yeah,
By that point, they got to develop Mackenzie Gore. They got to get some new guys because no one else in that rotation is really reliable. I mean, we saw what Clevenger did in the playoffs, and we saw what he did through most of the regular season.
right. Yeah, and the Giants, Dodgers are always going to be there. Giants can be a bit of a wild card, and they also have, I think, a lot of financial flexibility right now.
Yes, and they're big into the Aaron Judge talks right now, and who knows
and
what happens
I
there.
imagine they'll go after more big free agents because I remember when I was talking about them not signing.
Farhan is that guy.
Yeah, because when I talked about them not signing Gosman, I was like, they have a lot of financial flexibility. It's weird that they didn't get Gosman. It did work out that they got Rodon anyway, so it was kind of a
For
fair.
Les, who did arguably better.
Yeah, true. But yeah, the Giants have a good amount of financial flexibility. I think their farm system, I think, is like average, like kind of.
Yeah, that's what I would expect. They have Marco Luciano, who's like their top
Yeah.
prospect, I think. Heliot Ramos is in there.
They are also a team with a lot of older guys, but
Yes.
Logan Webb is a younger guy that's contributing, and Carlos Rodon, if they are able to,
If they keep him, yeah.
if they are able to keep him, very good asset.
You know what's very fun is Aaron Judge of the Giants is it's a rumor right now, but the Giants open their season in Yankee Stadium.
Oh my God, yeah,
Yeah.
that would be nuts. That would be nuts. And yeah, then there's always the hypocritical thing of like the Yankees getting mad for other teams doing what the Yankees do, which is pay a bunch of money for
Yeah.
a player, or like other players taking the biggest offer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Robinson Cano moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
He left for the money. What the hell?
What the heck? Why?
To be fair, he did
anyway,
go,
I'll
yeah.
have Garrett Cole.
Yeah, yeah. For $324 million, no one offered anywhere near that.
Yeah,
Like Garrett Cole,
he didn't have a choice.
like people forget, after the 2019 World Series Game 7 where he didn't enter the game, he entered his press conference with a Boris Korp hat. Like he wore nothing affiliated with the Houston Astros.
so funny.
He moved on the second that Michael Brantley swung and missed at that slider. He was like, "All right, he took off. Maybe he took off his uniform in the dugout.
yeah,
He just
right.
left it like maybe it's just still on the steps. Who knows?"
Yeah, yeah.
4 years later, like he was out of there the second that game ended.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, the Padres are in a bit of a situation. It's been, I mean, yeah, looking at their legacy, like think about where we thought, like if you went like in 2019, 2018 and said like, where do you think where do you see the Padres in like 2022? They got Tatis coming up. If you're thinking before 2019, like, oh, they just signed Machado. They got Francisco Mejia coming up. Luis Urias was a big prospect. Mackenzie Gore was a big prospect. You look at that and it's like, man, this is probably going to be a 100-win team competing in the playoffs every year. And it just hasn't been that.
Yeah, no.
I mean, 2020 doesn't help because, like, they were great, but it was also 60 games.
I really wonder if the 60-game season and like the small amount of success they had there just sent them down a path that ruined them.
True. Yeah, because in that year...
Like, if the pandemic never happened, are we looking at the Padres differently? Like, no, I'm serious. Like, there was another 102 games. What if they went 500 in those games and maybe just scratched the surface of the playoffs, maybe missed it by a little bit? Do you think they go that all in 2021? And even in 2020 in general, like the trade deadline is really when they went all in. That's when they traded Ty France, Cal Quantrill, all those guys.
Yeah.
Matt Brash, like that was when most of the damage was done. Like the Darvish deal was honestly a steal for the Padres, and the Snell deal is nothing's really happened there for the Rays. Like a lot of the trades that messed them up were mid-season 2020 after 1 month of play. By the way.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like, I remember that Clevenger deal where like. I think I didn't foresee it for what it was. I didn't foresee how bad it could be for the Padres because the Padres weren't giving up any of the, I don't think they gave up any like
top 10,
top 5 organizational prospects. And Clevenger also, like, he wasn't having a great 2020, but like his 2017 through 2019, he looked great. But yeah, it totally failed. And yeah, the Minaya deal, you know, we don't know the full extent of how that's going to be either, but could end up bad. I mean, given how we saw the Quantrill or the Clevenger deal go.
Yep.
But yeah, anything more on the Padres? And
that's probably it.
So yeah, now we go into the other LCS.
Can we talk for like 10 minutes max on this one?
Okay, yeah.
Because, I mean, I don't know. The Astros won in 4 games. And there was not too much that happened other than the one, like, roof game.
Right. It was silly.
Yeah. I think the takes that are going to be provided from us are pretty generic and standard. Like, stop complaining about the roofs. Like, the Astros were hitting into the same conditions. And yeah, some of that batted ball luck was difficult, especially on the Judge. The Judge barrel had a 910 expected batting average, but whatever happens.
Yeah, it happens. It probably happens all the time in the regular season.
And not only that, but the Bregman home run that had a .4 expected batting average. If Savants showed expected slugging, no one would bat an eye at it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And yeah, I think when we talked about it, when we originally tried to record, was like, it feels super lame, especially when you're the Yankees and you have that reputation, like the franchise reputation, and you're complaining about a factor that affects both teams.
Yeah.
You're that team that lost and complained about it not working your way.
Did you see the column or whatever it was that Andy Martino wrote for SNY? He said, like, based on observations, it really seemed like a lot of the players were like upset at the experience they got playing in Yankee Stadium where they were getting booed. Like the quote he had was like, a lot of players just don't seem to want to be Yankees.
Oh yeah.
And I wonder,
you mean Yankees players?
Yeah. I wonder if that's almost like a front office leak, so they could use that as an excuse as to why they don't re-sign Judge. He'd be like, well, no one wants to be a Yankee anymore. Like, it's the fans. They were booing, and we couldn't pay Judge because he didn't want to be here because he got booed in the playoffs. Even though
yeah. Because now you can't even say, like, oh, you know, he didn't sign with the Yankees. He doesn't want to be a champion.
I don't want to get too political here, but it's like when like companies will pay workers like awful wages and be like, well, no one wants to work anymore. What's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, like also if you go after a free agent when you're the Yankees and they don't come to the Yankees, you can't be like, oh, they didn't want to come here and be a champion.
Yeah, you cannot say that.
Yeah.
Like the Yankees, yeah, I mean, they haven't been to the World Series since 2009. They've the Yankees have a golden standard of excellence. They always will. You know, a lot of teams will be like, oh, Yankee fans are so spoiled. Like, they complain over a 99-win season with a division title and an ALCS appearance. And it's like, it is different. Like, the standard is different with the Yankees than it is for other franchises. I don't want to name anyone in particular just because that's mean, but that is just what it is.
Yeah, and also, like, even, like, you know, they won 99 games, but this wasn't their goal. You know, as a Red Sox fan, and I know the Red Sox also sometimes have high expectations, but if the Red Sox had, you know, been under the same management for 5 years in a row, didn't make it to the World Series and consistently performed under expectations, I would expect some change at the top, change with managers, change with general management. I mean, we kind of saw, like, John Farrell, after 2 consecutive division titles, he was fired because they did not meet their expectations. They lost. They were one and done 2 years in a row in the playoffs, and he was not their guy, and they got a new guy, and they succeeded with that guy. And the Yankees are just refusing to do that.
It's weird because a lot of people seem to like Boone outside of fans. Like, I think it was Jeter said he likes Boone. Some other executives, like, it's the classic journalists, like, well, one executive that texted me said, we love Boone and Cashman, and, like, if they get fired, like, they would be picked up, like, very quickly. And maybe that is the truth, but, like, under the Yankees, it's just different, man.
Yeah, and it's just, he might be a good guy, he might be a good baseball mind, but he hasn't worked for the Yankees, and I think
it's also very funny looking back. Sorry to interrupt you, but when the Yankees fired Joe Girardi in 2017, their like pool of managers was exclusively former Yankees.
Right.
There was like 7 guys, and all of them had played for the Yankees at one point. And it's like, have you considered maybe looking outside the organization's past?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and like even diplomatically, like with Boone's representation when he's complaining about the roof, and also showing highlights of the Red Sox beating the Yankees 18 years ago and coming back 3-0.
That was so funny. Did you see Michael K's rant on that, by the way?
Yeah, and I can't even disagree with him.
No, you can't. It's weird. Like, I don't know. Show highlights of May and June.
Yeah, right. Show like your wins against the Houston Astros.
Yeah, like, and those are both comeback wins. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, remember this 9th inning when we were down 6-3 and we came back to win 7-6? Let's watch that. Hey, remember when we were down 4-2 in the 8th? Let's watch that.
Right. Yeah. Instead, like, I can imagine like Tessie playing in the background with like David Ortiz being mobbed by his teammates.
The fact that David Ortiz also FaceTimed into the meeting was also
And we talked about
weird.
we talked about this in the original recording, but like as a Red Sox fan, I don't want David Ortiz trying to hype up the Yankees.
It'd be very funny if you got him on FaceTime and he was just like, "Yo, you guys suck." Like they never said what David Ortiz said.
Yeah.
He could have just been like, "Yo, you guys suck."
It would have been that would have been so funny.
And yeah, the one thing Michael K mentioned, very weird that this got to the media.
Yeah.
Like
right.
it didn't have to. Maybe a fed up player leaked it and asked to be anonymous.
Right.
But the quote said, like, Boone said Yankees special, or what was it, mental skills coach said that, or did that, whatever.
Right. It's
Weird.
very weird. Yeah, I don't know. And like every former Yankee is pissed off about it.
Yeah, it
Rightfully
makes sense.
so.
Yeah, if you were like Ruben Sierra and you saw highlights of you striking out to motivate the same franchise that you played for, I'd be pissed.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And like, I think it's all been said in those rants where it's like, yeah, it was the franchise's like darkest moment, and it's being used for motivate. Like, if that video was used for when the Astros were down, when the Astros were down 3-0 a couple years ago against the Rays, that it's kind of a neutral team. Like
Even still, to show another team, I think is weird. Like, the Yankees have plenty of highlights themselves. Show the 90s and 2000s if you really want to go back in time.
Right.
Show, like, even the Guardians highlights. Like, it's like, hey, we were down in a series. It wasn't, obviously it wasn't to that degree, but they were down in a series.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. And, just a reminder, like, how talented, like, you guys are MLB players. You guys won 99 games this year for a reason.
It's also very funny that if the Astros didn't blow those 2 games against the Yankees, they should have gone 11-0 against them this year. That would have been beautiful.
It is, yeah. It is fantastic. Also, of course, the irony of, like, this was the Astros' third ALCS against the Yankees. It's the one where we definitely know they weren't cheating, and they did it, and they won in the least amount of games.
Yeah, it was the least competitive series.
Yeah.
The trash cans were actually holding them back.
Yes.
They were just doing it to make it a little more fair.
Yeah, we joked about it in text. It was like, Jose Altuve, he was loud. It was loud and
It was very, yeah.
distracting. It's like, could you guys stop in there?
The stadium noise was fine, but
Yeah.
like when you hear the it's a different frequency.
Like right before the pitch, I'm like trying to focus up here.
Yeah.
Could you stop? Yeah. Just a little statistical breakdown of things. Going into Game 1, the Yankees struck out 17 times, tied for second most in a 9-inning postseason game, and also tied for most in an LCS game ever. Verlander looked a lot more like himself in this one. 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 11 strikeouts. Also a 36% whiff rate on the night from Justin Verlander. A 62% whiff rate on sliders, and 6 strikeouts ending on those sliders. And then in Game 2, the swings and misses continue to haunt the Yankees. They had a 44.3% whiff rate in Game 2. That's the 7th highest in a postseason game in the pitch tracking era, which goes back to 2008. Framber Valdez had a fantastic game. 7 innings, 4 hits, no earned runs, no walks, 9 strikeouts. A 46% whiff rate from Framber Valdez, and a 67% whiff rate on curveballs from Valdez. And out of 104 career appearances in the regular season and playoffs from Framber Valdez, that was the second highest whiff rate that Framber Valdez had in a single game. Then also, of course, in Game 2, that was the roof situation, which we kind of went over. Game 3, Christian Javier, I was hyping him up before the Mariners series, before this series. He finished the regular season with 23 scoreless innings. He's carried that into the playoffs. Well, not the whole playoffs. He allowed a home run against the Mariners, but
Yeah, whatever.
who cares? Christian Javier was allowing a lot of pop-ups. 5 of the 11 batted balls he gave up were 57 or more degrees. That is tied for the most such batted balls against a pitcher in a game in the StatCast era. And also what should be noted with the Yankees is not only did they strike out a lot, but they still had some opportunities, but were unable to capitalize until Game 4, where they eventually blew it. But the Yankees in Games 1 through 3, with runners in scoring position, they were 1 for 14 with 7 strikeouts in Games 1 through 3. And yeah, killed them. Absolutely killed them.
Yep.
And yeah, Astros just looked better the entire series.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what else there is to say about the ALCS. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really just all you have to do is look at the scoreboard. It's not even really like you have to watch the games. Just, Astros swept. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and from a Yankees perspective, if I were a Yankees fan, I would just be very tired of the same old. Even if Boone is a very good manager, I think
They need a change of voice.
Yes.
Yeah, like it's not working.
right. Like even if he's better than than the new guy you bring in, it's still time for a change.
I really love seeing all the Yankee fans on Twitter being like, we need Don Mattingly as manager and Derek Jeter as GM. As an outsider, I'm like, yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
let's make
please.
it happen. Let's see it.
I'd like you guys to win 83 games next year.
Yeah, because the Marlins look so good right now.
Yeah.
We've been hyping them up for a couple of years, and they really showed it this year
Right. Yeah. With their
explosive offense with 30 whatever it is year old Jesus Aguilar as the 3-hitter.
yeah. Right.
4 years removed from a random peak year.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say about the series, I'll give some stats on who performed really well.
Yeah.
Jeremy Pena won ALCS MVP, deservedly so. He hit 353 with an 1176 OPS. He had 2 doubles and 2 home runs along with 4 RBI.
The second of those home runs, it felt like it sealed the deal in the series. Like the Yankees still had a lead later in that game, but he had the 3-run home run to tie it in the third or whatever it was, and it was like, they're not winning this one.
There was a sense at no point during that game did I think like, oh, that the Yankees might win the next 4.
Yeah.
But I did think that okay, they could win Game 4 here.
Yeah.
They had Cortez on the mound, and
Unfortunately, he got hurt. That sucks.
He was injured. If he was healthy, things could have ended up different. But I was like, Cortez on the mound, McCullers not looking great, and then 2 walks and a home run, and it's like, okay, well, we're kind of back to square one here.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, also in Game 4, Astros went 5 for 10 with runners in scoring position, which helped them out.
Yep.
And Gleyber Torres helped them out too.
And IKF, yeah.
In
Both of
IKF,
them.
yeah, big error there. And Astros obviously capitalized.
Yeah.
What else would you like after that, it was
Every
like,
single time the Yankees messed up on defense, the Astros immediately made them pay. Like
Yeah.
there was the ball that Bader dropped in Game 3.
yep,
Chas McCormick immediately hit a 250-foot home run
yep,
off of Cole.
yep, yeah, at like a 3-degree launch angle.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alex Bregman in the series hit 333 with a 975 OPS. Also noted with Alex Bregman, he did not strike out a single time in the ALCS.
That's crazy.
Astros bullpen balled out like they have been balling out the entire postseason. In that series, they went 12 and 2/3 innings, only allowed 1 run, and struck out 19 batters for a 39.6% strikeout rate. A big part of that was Ryan Presley, their closer, who had 3 saves in the series. He pitched 3 1/3 innings, didn't allow a hit, only allowed 1 walk, and struck out 6. And when he gave up batted balls, which was not often, the average exit velocity was 76.1 miles per hour, which is extremely low. Not really competitive batted balls there. And I guess, there is, on the Yankees side, there could be criticism towards Aaron Judge. He did slug .063. However, he did have 3 barrels, and all of them were outs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, statistically, if you look at his slash line, it's not great. But I don't know. Not too much to be worried about. But that's
He
kind of
didn't do a lot to help his case, but he also had a lot just happen to not go right for him.
right. Exactly. Just batted balls like right to the center fielder.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's all we got on Astros Yankees.
Yep.
And yeah, so the part of this episode where we originally recorded, we were actually able to get our predictions. So I don't know, any amendments before from anything happened in the last 3 days to alter your opinion?
No.
Yeah, neither have I.
Nola's starting Game 1, not Wheeler. I don't know.
So
Whatever.
it's time to go back in time and get our predictions and our outro.
It's kind of funny that like the 2 teams will have the exact same amount of days off, which you don't get a lot.
Yeah.
So no excuse as to like too many days off or not enough.
It's gonna make for some fun matchups.
Oh yeah.
One thing that I'm gonna make a bold prediction for this series. If the Phillies win Game 4, they're winning the series. However, the same cannot be said for the Astros. It's not a whoever wins Game 4 wins the series. If the Phillies win Game 4, because the options for Game 4 for the Phillies, it's either Bailey Falter, who did not pitch well in Game 4, or Noah Syndergaard, who, let's be honest, is past his prime, not quite the same pitcher that he used to be. And from what I've heard from reporters, the Astros are going again with McCullers Game 3, Javier Game 4. It's going to be Javier versus either Bailey Falter or Noah Syndergaard, or maybe like Kyle Gibson or something. Point is, going to be a mismatch in starting pitching for the Phillies. It's going to be a home game at CBP, though, where they haven't lost a game. If the Phillies win Game 4, they win it all. However, if the Astros win Game 4, I'm still not going to guarantee anything.
Right. Yeah.
That's just the game they should win.
Yeah. In a series like this, it's, you can't look at the regular season factors at all. Obviously it's a 106-win team versus an 87-win team, but it's a team that's 7-0 in the postseason versus a team that's also 9-2 in the postseason.
Yeah.
And has been undefeated at home so far.
It feels like the Phillies have played better, though, in a weird way.
Yeah. No. Yeah. For sure.
Like the Astros have won, I think, 1 game by more than 2 runs.
Right.
And 2 games by more than 1 run.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they've won their games by an average of less than 2.
Yeah.
Which is funny. They have a run differential of 13, but they're of plus 13 and they're 7-0. So a lot of that is their bullpen as well. Like they're doing fantabulous.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a weird series to judge, no doubt about it.
It's fun that they played each other the last week of the regular season.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yep. The Phillies clinched the playoffs by winning against the Astros.
Right. Yeah, it's weird, and also this is the 3rd time we've talked about third time on the show that we've talked about the Astros in the World Series. You've predicted not the Astros both times, and you've been correct both times. I've picked the Astros both times and failed on that both times.
That's
So
true.
a lot of me just doesn't want to pick the Astros because they failed me a couple times.
I already have my prediction.
Yeah, I still haven't really figured mine out.
So, I mean, if we're going matchups, right? Verlander versus Wheeler game 1 is going to be an awesome one.
Yeah.
I didn't know I needed that, but I need that. And then it'll be Framber versus Aaron Nola. That'll be fun. Ranger Suarez versus Lance McCullers Jr. Optimistic for Philly on that one. And then Who Knows versus Christian Javier.
Right.
I think it'll be very fun seeing Hector Neris get into one of the 3 through 5 games.
Yeah, right. Oh my God. The amount of pain he's sometimes caused that fan base.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird series. What are you thinking for it?
I'm thinking Phillies in 6.
You got Phillies
I'm
in
thinking
6.
Phillies in 6. They're just too hot right now. I know that the Astros are 7-0, but it feels like the Phillies are playing like they've had the moments, right? Like the Astros had the moment with the Jeremy Pena home run, but that felt like they waited too long to have it happen. Like it just had to happen. They had the Jordan moment, and I'll give them that. That was cool, but also I blame that partially on the Mariners management. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It just feels to me like the Phillies are this team of destiny. I don't really know
Yeah.
what else to describe it as. I did mention before the ALCS whichever team has a better bullpen is going to win. That turned out to be correct because the Yankees bullpen did blow a couple of leads
Right.
or tie games late in the game. The Astros have a much better bullpen than the Phillies. But I don't know. Part of me just sees them getting done, right? Like the
Yeah.
Phillies have lost, the Astros have lost the World Series to 2 other seemingly random NL East teams where they had a home field advantage before.
Mhm.
Why can't they do it for a third time?
Right. And yeah, it's weird. I think also with this Astros bullpen, they also haven't faced an offense like the Phillies, who's also as hot as the Phillies.
Mm-hmm.
The Mariners offense, I mean, they did well against Justin Verlander, but outside of that, they were pretty flat.
Yeah.
Yankees offense has not,
Yeah,
they
the
just weren't
Astros. I
great.
mean, it's weird though. Like, is it? Well, because I mean, the Mariners' offense was pretty good against Toronto, and
Yeah, true.
they kind of just fell flat against Houston. The Yankees' offense was up and down. They were very inconsistent against Cleveland, and they were very consistent against Houston.
Yeah.
Not in a good way.
Right.
I don't know. Like it's the case of, do we blame bad offenses, or do we say that Astros pitching is that good? Because Astros pitching is that good.
Yeah.
They are.
Right. Yeah, I think.
Like 90% of their innings came from guys with a sub-4 ERA this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, what I think with this scenario is park environments.
Mm-hmm.
The Astros in playoff environment, it's good, but it hasn't really affected
Yeah.
It hasn't really affected opposing
What's their
teams that much.
record in the World Series at home since 2019? Like it's what?
0-4 plus.
0-4 plus 1 and or 2 and 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're
1 and 6.
1 and 6.
1 and 6 at home.
Yeah.
The Phillies haven't lost a game at home yet.
Yeah. But also I think the Astros are going to be out of the Padres and Braves, probably the least affected by the away crowd.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they've just on the road, I feel like the Astros have just faced a lot over the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, this is a hard one to predict, really.
I'm going. So I have Phillies in 6. I have the Astros winning games 2 and 4.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, the Braves 1 and 6, Nats 1 and 7. Yeah, Phillies in 6 does sound like a good prediction to have. The Astros are a better team, but I think the Phillies are going to win.
Yeah.
And they're going to win. They're going to win in 6.
No, we got the same one.
We got the same
Look
prediction.
at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just flirted around with the idea there. But yeah, I see that happening for the Phillies.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think also them having three.
I could see a Castellanos homer into the Crawford boxes.
Right. Yeah.
You know, Harper taking advantage of every part of that park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I like, I think Wheeler matches up well with Verlander. Nola matches up well with Valdez. The Phillies bullpen, I can't look at them the same way I did like 3 weeks ago.
No.
And the Phillies offense, momentum-wise, much better than the Astros offense right now.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan, we haven't really talked about, hasn't really like he got a nice RBI single yesterday, but he hasn't been like the big bad Jordan Alvarez that he has come to been known as over the past couple years. And yeah, I don't know, like the Astros are objectively the better team.
Oh, no doubt.
But
no doubt in my mind.
And they have a better bullpen, but I think the Phillies in 6 just sounds right. It just seems right. Unfortunately, yeah, I guess
they send it back to Houston, and then it'll be what, a Nola versus Framber rematch.
Yeah.
Framber pitched Game 6 last year, right?
No, it was Luis Garcia.
It was Garcia. You're absolutely right.
But like
who's not even in the playoff rotation this year.
Right.
And it's not even because he was bad this year. He was fine. They just were better.
Yeah. And Christian Javier just stepped up big time. But yeah, we both have Phillies in 6. I think it's going to be a really fun series, no doubt about it.
Yes, it will.
So like it's going to be overwhelming Phillies support from just the national landscape.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even rooting for them because of the scandal. I think I'd just get tired of the Astros here. This is their 4th time there in 6 years.
No, honestly, like I wouldn't even be mad if the Astros won. I'd be like, you know what, that's cool. Like I'd be so happy for Dusty.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't know. I feel guilty betting against the Astros here because I really want to see Dusty get a ring. I'd be very happy for him. Like that man deserves it.
Yeah, and
also it'd be cool for the Astros to just fully avenge the scandal and be like, "Hey, we did it clean. Like deal with it."
Yeah, and if they do end up winning, they've fully earned it. They've been the best team. Only team that was better in the regular season was the Dodgers, and they couldn't get past the Padres.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like they will have fully earned it. They've been the best team in the American League, not only this year, but just over the past half decade, they've been that team.
I'm just getting a report here. This is from Mark Feinsand. According to sources, the Dodgers could become a serious player in this offseason's Aaron Judge sweepstakes. That would potentially move Mookie Betts to second base.
Wow.
That would be so stupid. And you know what? It makes so much sense. Like, the Dodgers are coming off a 4-game DS loss. Like, they need to do something drastic.
Right. Yeah. But I don't know. Just Judge could play left field. It's not like they have a big guy,
they have
guy at left field right now, right?
Yeah, I mean that's very much a rumor. It's still October 24th. Like there is very much nothing set in stone.
Right.
That was probably just like one guy in like the Dodgers analytics department being like, "Hey, if we get Judge, we could put him in right and put Betts at second, and that could be that." And that was it. And that was what they ran with for the story.
No.
Realistically, I don't see it happening.
No.
But I don't know. You can never count the Dodgers out of any.
Right.
Big name. Like any top of the line prize for any offseason, you can never count the Dodgers out. They're always somewhere in there.
But yeah, moving Betts out of the outfield would be very stupid given how good he is there. Like I get that he came up as a second baseman, but he's not going to provide the same value there most likely. But anyway, that does it for this installment of Above Replacement Radio.
It does.
Some brief LCSs there. And we got a Phillies Astros World Series, 1 seed versus 6 seed. Very, very interesting stuff. Kind of almost similar to 2019 with a wild card team versus, a team that won well over 100 games. So yeah, should be a fun one, no doubt.
Absolutely.
We hope you enjoyed this one. If you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter at @Chris_Gianta. Follow Danielle.
Nothing is funnier than like it's primarily Heyman and Nightingale where they will take the absolute worst pictures on their phone and post them to Twitter being like Aaron Judge in his press conference. This is one that Heyman just posted.
Astros fan and funny hat on the Ford train. Y'all cheated too.
But it's the blurriest. Like it looks like the train was moving while he took this.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing funnier than seeing. It's always Heyman or Nightingale,
Right.
which are like they're like the two memes. Like this one too. Yeah, like Yankees celebrate with the win with a pick. That was after the DS.
Yeah, it
Just
looked
a
like
random side view angle of the Yankees.
looked like it was taken
celebration.
off my mom's Razor phone back in 2009.
Yep. Oh yeah, this one. This is the division series.
Aaron Judge before game
Game
one.
one, he's like, it's like a weird picture of him walking to the back to the dugout, not making a very flattering face.
Yeah.
It's always Heyman and Nightingale that take the funniest, stupidest pictures.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this one. If you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Kern. And follow the show on Instagram at Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you next time where we will be talking about the World Series.
Yeah.
See you then.
This conversation is over.